Hello, everyone. This is Fred Cochran from San Joaquin County Office of Education, and this is UDL Live via Zoom. If you're able to join me today, please sign in to the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to present to you and hopefully provide you with some resources to support UDL in your teaching environment, in your classroom, in your leadership position, wherever you are. We'll try to make connections for that. Connecting the dots with UDL. So many of you probably have seen this Padlet, but I'm going to use the Padlet today to just kind of guide the discussion around universal design for learning and social emotional learning. So what you see in front of you here is the Padlet, and the modules, as I've explained in the past, are short modules in order to meet you where you are in your UDL journey. The first module is about what is UDL. The second module is about barriers are in the design. Modules 1C is learner variability, 1D is expert learners. So you're able to view the slides from that presentation or listen to a recorded version as well. There's an area here to add chats if you want to chat with us at any time, and different events that are taking place around UDL, the UDL toolkit, which I'd say just hit 54,000 hits, so I'm pretty excited about that. Other teacher resources are there, but today we're going to focus on UDL and social emotional learning. So I'm going to do something a little bit different today. I'm going to do kind of a backwards presentation for you. So instead of you just seeing the slides and listen to me talk about UDL and this module, I'm going to let you see my notes as well, so that if you wanted to copy these or be able to use these in a presentation or in discussion, you're more than welcome to do that. So the reason why I have notes is so that I can be sure that I'm hitting the the objectives that I hope to provide in any of the modules I do. So here I'm just introducing myself, trying to explain that this is a mini module, and the goal of this particular module is to create that intersection with universal design for learning and social emotional learning. So I think you all know that UDL really does impact student learning. So as we move through these mini modules, you might say, hey, I do this already. And that really is great, because you do want to affirm the great work you're doing, but realize that it all resides in the UDL framework. And being intentional about that is really kind of the secret sauce here. You want to be sure that you see how all of the guidelines and checkpoints all lead us to expert learning. So my notes are, as I said here, I'm just going to go through this and share how I developed this, so that it can become a tool for you if you're sharing information with a colleague or during a staff meeting. So the modules are designed so they could be done at your own pace. So there's really no notes here, because really, they were intentionally designed to be considerate of people's time. We know that our time is precious, and we don't have a lot of time to sit through resources for a duration of time. So these are designed to just be short little chunks of information to give you something to think about and take away. All right. Everything is stored on the Padlet. If you go to the bit.ly /UDL modules, you'll get directly to what I just showed you in the beginning. So that's available for you to share with anyone you wish. So I had some analytics done on this few weeks ago, and a number of people do look at the Padlet, so I'm really happy about that. But your comments are really appreciated. So if you ever have a comment you want to share, you can go to the Padlet, go to the chat area and add to there, ask a question, or you can email me directly because I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about universal design for learning. So I always include a way of connecting the guidelines as kind of a warm-up, a kind of a check-in. So I will intentionally pick out a section of the guidelines. So here is under the principle of representation. I've cut out this section here because I want to talk a little bit about how we customize information or our deliverables to students, so that the display of information is customized. So here we go. So have you ever gotten stumped on following directions with only images explaining each step of the process? Where I think about this, I think about IKEA directions because they are so hard for me, because as a learner, I need to either see it modeled or I need it, I need both. I may need more than an image in order to understand what the directions are. So I just kind of make a connection there. So sometimes we need alternatives to just understand the directions. Sometimes it's video. We need to be sure it's translated in our first language sometimes. And think about your students. If we have these barriers even in our daily lives, what about your kids, your students? They do as well. So we need to really be intentional about planning so that we provide multiple means of representation. So as I say, put yourself in the place of your students or your learners and think about how they learn best, because we know that we don't all learn the same way. So always review that there are three foundational concepts of UDL: barriers. That barriers are not in the learner, but barriers are in the design or in the environment. Variability is the norm, it's contextual, and the goal of UDL is expert learning. I always like to cover those and remember those as we think about those foundational concepts when we're designing lessons around universal design for learning. The next slide is what the topic's about. We're going to intersect UDL and SEL. So that's what this module is all about. And when you are presenting or you're sharing information, if you use my recorded version of this session that is on the Padlet, you can pause whenever a video appears on the slide deck, and you can stop and talk about whatever the content is. So here, just want to ask ourselves, how do I model competencies? We're going to talk about the 5 competencies of social emotional learning. And do I call these out during the day in my instruction? Because SEL is all day long. We're always at different levels of our emotional learning. There's an impact, a daily, some stimuli can come in or play into this, where it isn't always just a check-in and we're done for the day, but we need to check in with each other all day long. It's beneficial. SEL is beneficial for both children and adults. It increases our self-awareness, our academic achievement, and positive behaviors. And those behaviors should translate outside the classroom as well as inside the classroom. And according to National University, from an academic standpoint, students who participated in SEL programs saw 11 percentile increase in their overall grades and better attendance. So as I said before, always feel free to pause the video. I'm going to show the video for us because we have enough time to do that today. It's a very short video about why SEL is so important in our daily lives. Here we go. I hope. Here we go.
Think about the young people in your lives and all the different places where they're learning about themselves, how to relate to others, and work together on goals. How can we intentionally create learning experiences that will help all young people develop and maintain positive relationships, become lifelong learners, and contribute to a more caring, just world? Educators, researchers, community members, families, and the students themselves agree what we need is social and emotional learning, or SEL. SEL is the process through which young people and adults acquire and apply the knowledge, skills, and attitudes that help us to understand ourselves, connect with others, achieve our goals, and support our communities. We all need opportunities to learn and engage in environments where we feel safe, valued, and a sense of belonging. So how does SEL help schools, families, and communities work together so that all young people have these kinds of learning experiences and achieve success in education, careers, and life? CASEL's framework identifies 5 areas of competence that together help us develop a healthy sense of who we are, manage stress, understand the views of others, and work together to create schools and communities where everyone can grow their strengths and interests. Self-awareness is about how we think about ourselves and who we are. It includes understanding our culture, our thoughts, feelings, and what we believe we're capable of, and understanding how these things can influence our behaviors and beliefs. Self-management is the ability to manage those emotions, thoughts, and actions in different situations so that we can achieve individual and collective goals. This includes coping with stress and anxiety, persevering through challenges, and taking action to create positive change. Social awareness is how we understand others, how we learn to take different perspectives and empathize even with people who are different from us. It also includes understanding how the broader norms and systems around us influence how we develop and create a sense of belonging. Relationship skills are how we connect and engage effectively with others, and how we form lasting friendships and connections. This includes communicating clearly, solving problems together, managing conflict and disagreements, and standing up for ourselves and the rights of others. Lastly, responsible decision-making is how we put it all together to make caring and constructive choices. This includes thinking critically about consequences, analyzing the impact of our actions on ourselves and others, and identifying solutions that support our collective well-being. We continue to develop and practice SEL throughout our lives and can adapt and apply these competencies across different contexts and cultures. How we develop SEL is impacted by our environments, which is why we need to work together across classrooms, schools, families, and communities. In the classroom, students can be explicitly taught SEL skills and also can practice and apply SEL during core subjects, like discussing different perspectives in social studies and language arts, or collaboratively problem solving in science or math. SEL is most effective when supported by evidence-based programs and trusting relationships where students are treated as partners in their learning. Beyond the classroom, SEL can be intentionally promoted throughout the school experience, from the way they're greeted in the morning to how discipline practices are carried out and how adults themselves develop and model positive relationships and the SEL competencies. Outside of school, families and caregivers provide the earliest and ongoing learning and interactions for their children, so it's important that schools listen to and authentically partner with families to help shape SEL priorities and strategies for supporting their children. Similarly, when schools partner with community organizations to align their efforts, SEL opportunities can be strengthened and students benefit even more. With SEL, we can help create schools and learning spaces where all young people feel connected, inspired, engaged, and ready to contribute to the world around them.
So I love that video. I think it kind of breaks everything down as far as the competencies. So anyway, I hope you share it with others or go back and listen to it again if you need to. I think it's really helpful, but let's really get down to what today's about. It's about looking at those 5 competencies that we just watched on the video: self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, social awareness. And how are we going to connect that to UDL? So when we look at UDL, where can we call out social emotional learning? So this slide is a little hard to read right now, so I'm going to show a different version of this crosswalk. And I think it'll be a little bit easier for us to read. This was done by Novak Education. Many of you probably have heard of Katie Novak, who's a guru in the world of UDL. And we admire and appreciate all the great resources that she shares with us. But this quote, just to start with: the brain must be in the proper emotional state to be capable of learning. And Dr. Mary Helen Imodino Yang, if you've never watched any of her presentations or read her articles, I encourage you to. She's incredible. This quote from her: it is literally neurobiologically impossible to think deeply about things that you don't care about. She really emphasizes how emotion has such a factor in what we retain and what we remember, the impacts we have because we were emotionally engaged. So moving down here and looking how these competencies connect to one another and to the guidelines. So if we look at self-awareness, for the sake of time, I'm not going to read each of these to you, but I want you to look at, for example, I'll just do this example on self-awareness. If you look here where it says related UDL guidelines and checkpoints, optimize individual choice and autonomy, that's checkpoint 7.1. So if you're looking at the guidelines, you can definitely find those connections there. So 7.1 is right here under recruiting interest. Now, optimizing relevance, value, authenticity, checkpoint 7.2. Heightened salience of goals and objectives, that's 8.1. That's under sustaining efforts and persistence. Increase mastery, oriented feedback is under checkpoint 8.4. And promote expectations and beliefs that optimize motivation is checkpoint 9.1. And let's look at the big connection here. So if we are giving students agency over their learning, they must know themselves, their interests, goals, strengths, and weaknesses to help them make appropriate learning choices. So you can actually look at these 5 competencies, and we can call out UDL by looking at these related guidelines and checkpoints and make those big connections to what SEL, how SEL and UDL intersect. Other people like to call it a crosswalk, but whichever way you want to look at it, it's a way of making connections with the two. So they're not in isolation, or one you do this and you do that. It can all be under the UDL framework, which I think that makes things so much easier. We think about that, we think about equity, we can put it all under the framework of UDL and make our lives a little easier, make it simpler in our design. So going back to the slide deck, I'm going to continue. And if you go through the slide deck, you'll see what I just did. I took the first one under self-awareness. I again showed where these guidelines, where the guidelines and the checkpoints interface with the competencies of SEL. So I'm not going to read each of those to you, but I just want to show you the intent, in the design of this module, so you can see under each of these where we can call out universal design for learning, social awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision making. And I think one thing that really resonated with me watching the video we just watched was the fact that if students come to school and those competencies are not being met or not being addressed or not being given ways to coping skills to address some of these areas that they need to have in order to self-regulate and be able to learn during the day, then their kids are starting at a deficit model. They need to have ways to be able to address that and cope with their situations that they come up with in the classroom, outside the classroom. This is a shorter video. This is by Katie Novak. And again, as I would say, if I was presenting this to a group, I would do a stop and pause, stop, pause, talk, and come back and have a discussion. But here's Katie's connection to how she sees the relationship between UDL and SEL. And it's going to start in a second. I'm going to do it this way. But we'll watch Grammarly first. Hang on. Some slides don't work as well as I want them to. So here we go.
And how do you see the relationship between UDL and SEL?
So universal design for learning is essentially how do we proactively predict or anticipate some of the challenges or the barriers that prevent learning. And learning is emotional work. David Rose, who's the father of UDL, Dr. David Rose from Harvard University, he always said teaching is emotional work. And he meant that about the importance of relationships and human connection, but also learning happens in the affective network of the brain, which is also responsible for emotions. And so many students will or may struggle in a traditional model academically because maybe students struggle with language or comprehension or perception. But we also know that some students will have difficulty, accessing high learning experiences because they are facing barriers that are essentially giving them an amygdala hijack. So students who are experiencing trauma or anxiety, all of us have been in places where emotions were very, very high in a more negative space. And not to say that negative emotions are bad or negative, because I think in many ways they drive us to action. And so there's no judgment on the fact that some students are angry or sad, and that's a beautiful part of the human experience, but it will impact their ability to learn if educators don't have options and choices for students to self-regulate and be mindful and to step back and reflect. And so it is absolutely a part of it that when you're universally designing, you're trying to not only make sure that there's options and choices to scaffold and support academic skills, but also that you have those same scaffolds and strategies and supports to allow students to reflect on where they are socially and emotionally and how they can best make choices to find balance and regulate while accessing high-level academics.
So there we go. Getting back to our slide deck. I think all of this is it just makes so much sense we do address this with our students, and we know that there's a lot of things going on in their daily lives, the aftermath of what we've been through with distance learning and the gaps that students are experiencing in their learning. It's really important that we get them regulated and to be able to self-regulate and to be able to advance and get them to their goals, get them to our goals that we wish for every single child. So we have a UDL network on Facebook, so please look at the Padlet. You can click the link and join us. We have like over 160 members on board. This video or this presentation today will be uploaded and will be shared in the Facebook group for those who couldn't join us today. And then all of our sessions that we have monthly, the third Wednesday of the month from 4:30 to 5, are done on Zoom. I did try doing an interface with Facebook Live at the same time, and this seems to be a little simpler approach, so that this will be the way we will take care of this in the future. May will be the last call for this school year, and we'll start again in August, and it more than likely will be the third Wednesday of the month at 4:30, so that we can meet people after school, and hopefully we can do something live. I mean, live in person would be really fun, so we'll have to put our thinking caps on and see if that will work out. So if you like the module, you can go to the next module, which is about UDL and equity, or you can go back and review any of the resources that are shared on the Padlet. So in closing, I was looking at the Castle website today, and I was looking at their newsletter, and I loved reading about this SEL superpower, and I thought, well, that looked interesting. I wonder what that's about. And I realized that last month was, I think, the SEL focus month, but I found a little caption off Twitter here on SEL superpowers, and it's just a short little testimony on SEL superpowers, and I thought it was a cute way to finish today's calls. So anyway, you know how to reach me if you need me in the future, but let's take a look at this and then I'll say goodbye.
Hi, my name is Harper Anthony.
Hello, my name is Renata Rosales.
Hi, my name is Joshua Nelson, 2023 ASCA School Counselor of the Year finalist from Florida.
My SEL superpower is that I now know myself better.
My SEL superpower is helping students identify their emotions and then giving them tools to help them regulate their emotions.
My SEL superpower has to be building relationship skills.
Normally, when I am sad or angry or frustrated, now instead of raging on other people, I now know that listening to music or going for walks helps me a lot to deal with my emotions and to cool down.
I say it's building relationship skills because I love to help people. Like, if you're new to my school, I'm gonna be the person who's there to help you or show you around. I love making new friends. I call myself the super helper.
Oftentimes when students come to me, their emotions are all mixed up and they have a hard time identifying how they're feeling. What I get to do is sit and talk with students and help them identify which emotion they're feeling and then give them a tool to regulate. This is my SEL superpower. What's yours?
So thank you for listening in, and please reach out if you need any UDL resources. Check out the UDL Live Binder, go back to your guidelines, look at some of the resources we've shared in the past and see if that will help you with implementation of UDL in your classrooms and at your school sites. So for now, I want to say thanks for being with me today, and look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.